in this section of the show, we each pick 2 or 3 apps or pieces of tech from the marketing world that we'd like to discuss and highlight, which we found useful or we just think fantastic or exciting or just new enough to highlight on the show. So, Pascal, you're in the hot seat first. What are your 2 pieces of tech or apps this week?
So I've chosen 2 apps that can help you take things out. And I'm going to explain in a moment. So the first one I want to kind of give a little kind of plug to is called unscreen.com. Screen as in the movie screen, and then unscreen.com is having humble beginnings, but they've got big plans. I want you to imagine a situation where you have recorded maybe a video, maybe a short video, and the background behind you is just not very nice, a bit of a clutter, or maybe the image or the colors are kind of clashing. This app allows you to remove the background using AI to essentially detect where you are and where you stand. You imagine that you're going to be cut out and almost recreate the effect of a green screen. So it will remove the background for you, Roger, but then you can add a color, solid color. You can leave it white, of course, or you can add some branded and so on and so forth. So at the moment, because it's in beta, they are allowing you to do like a GIF or a GIF, choose your spelling, and that can become a lovely little meme that you can put on social media to give maybe a longer form content, a bit of a shout out and so on. But I did a test. I have to tell you, it worked incredibly well. So that's just the beta version. The pro version, they promise to be able to do a full kind of vlogs recording or something like that, where they will literally remove the background. And I can think of many instances where many of us right now working from home, or we're not working in ideal kind of environment, and sometimes the background, it is what it is. You can't quite do something with it. So to remove it could be very helpful. So unscreen.com I think is worth paying attention to as they continue to grow and develop the app. The second one is about removing again, but this one is about removing sound. So there's an app called Crisp, spelled KRISP. As you know, if you do an app, you have to misspell the name. So crisp.ia allows you to remove background noise. Now, I've done some tests, and again, very impressed. And not just the noise, forgive me, of a normal room, but conversation, dog barking, people talking, and so on and so forth. It will learn from you. It will learn, what to remove. And again, allow you maybe to produce some better audio content moving forward. And I can see where this is going, which is again by this idea of people having to work very, very differently, not always having full control of the environment, whether it's visually or orally, and to have those little additional kind of apps into your toolkit could make a big difference. So unscreen.com and crisp.ai.
Very interesting, especially like the unscreen idea. And it's amazing how this technology is just getting better by the day, isn't it, Pascal? Because, even a few months ago, the Zoom background, unless you had a green screen, it was actually quite dodgy, wasn't it? It made it look like you were in an episode of 1970s Doctor Who with some dodgy colour separation overlay, or chroma key as they call it. But just these little tweaks, and it's almost flawless. It's incredible to see the advancements in just a few months
right,
as we've had to adapt to this new world. So I wanted to draw your attention this week to Restream.io. Now, the reason I'm highlighting Restream is almost to compare it to an extremely heavy duty and very quite expensive equivalent. Now, I mentioned earlier in the show that I was involved in producing something called ProtectX. It was an online conference which was broadcast live, and I was privileged to work with a production company, and they had the industrial pro version of Wirecast. Now, Wirecast is it's a TV production grade broadcasting piece of software. Extremely intuitive, lots of options to allow you to mix the vision, mix the graphics, and mix scenes, overlay. It can do the green screen and all of that sort of thing. But you're talking about close to £1,000 for the full version, plus an ongoing annual, fairly hefty fee. Now, most of us who want to do live streaming aren't going to be able to afford to buy and maintain something like Wirecast. But Restream, which is effectively a browser-based broadcasting platform, I'm actually quite surprised by how quickly they're integrating quite a lot of the features that you would find on something as industrial strength as Wirecast. And I was lucky enough a while back to, and I think it was our friend Richard Tubb that pointed us in the direction of this, was to get an early sort of lifetime license to use Restream. And they just keep adding features, and they just keep, a few months ago they added the ability to bring guests in. Only this week they've added the ability to queue up video snippets or audio snippets that you could use as stings between scenes, and you could just queue them up in the timeline. And it's just developing by the day. So anybody who is interested in live streaming, maybe even you just want to test the water, rather than invest into a massively expensive, although incredibly good piece of software like Wirecast, try Restream.io as an alternative. The second piece of tech that I wanted to highlight is something that I've actually been using for 3 years now, and it's called Day One, Pascal. I guess you would probably describe it as a journaling app. So if, as the name would suggest, you go in every day and you add photos, you add your daily diary, I guess, or your affirmation, whatever it might be. What I've been using Day One for, in addition to saving my photographs and saving my diary events and all of those sort of things, is to record ideas for stories. Because, as we all know, stories are so good in a marketing environment, whether you're telling a brand story, whether you're telling an individual personal brand story, or you're just telling a story to family or friends. It's always good to note down ideas for stories as they occur to you, because of things that are happening in your day-to-day life. And I just find this app, it's on the phone at the end of the day, 8:45, 9 o'clock at night, flip it open, Day One, type, photo, story idea, close it, takes 5-10 minutes tops. And I've been doing it for 3 years now. So and every day it reminds you of the last year's worth of content. So now every day I get to see what I was doing and the photos and the story ideas from the last 3 years. So I'm absolutely loving Day One. And sorry, Pascal, I want to do a very, very quick shout out. This is the third piece of tech, and it's a big piece of tech, and it's not a marketing piece of tech, but I'm quite upset about it, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. I just saw in the news over the last few days that British Airways, regrettably, as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, is with immediate effect going to retire its entire fleet of Boeing 747 jumbo jets. I'm quite upset about that. Maybe not as upset as when Concorde disappeared, but what an amazing aircraft the 747 is. I've flown on it many, many times. Luckily, I've tried first class, business class, premium economy and economy, experienced all the facets of the 747, and it's a remarkable aircraft, a remarkable piece of technology, and I'll be very sad to see it leave the skies.
It does feel like the end of an era. Interestingly, the day we were recording this video podcast and audio podcast, it was covered by the news, and it was a whole segment on the BBC Radio 2 program, and people were ringing from all generations, including the very first pilot who actually flew the aircraft, the very first aircraft, and his account of how special it felt at the time. And I think it was also, it's linked, isn't it, to the kind of the British psyche about conquering the skies. And I think there's a lot going on that. So let's see what the new generation of aircraft is going to be like. But it does feel as though, it'd be a big miss in terms of that image and that experience of being a traveller. When I think about what you mentioned, Restream and Day One, I'm making a link here. I'm joining the dots for you. Because when we go back to the earlier comment I made about being a pixel being and making things film-like, and you've got your right to craft perform. And ultimately, when I think about the habits and behavior of filmmakers, they're always coming in with ideas that they jot down on the pad or with pen and paper or with their kind of touch screen and finger. And I think there's a link between day one and Restream, as I make it in my head, which is ultimately the barriers to entries are being removed time and time again. I think you're right. Listening to what you said about Restream, goodness, I mean, you literally now, between one or two of you, can really produce something quite exciting that would have been beyond our reach from a budget point of view, but also from a skill and technology point of view. Now, with your laptop, what you can do. So the battleground really is about who's going to have the best idea, who's going to come up with the best format, the vision for their programming. As you know, when I do the webinars on content marketing, I do make analogies with radio programming, TV programming, and filmmaking, because I say, these are the individuals whose job it is to come up with an idea. It's like Steven Spielberg, who says, my job is to dream, then come up with ideas and so on. And Ridley Scott saying, my job is to create worlds. And I think with regard to the maturation process of content marketing and live streaming, it won't be whether or not you're good at the tech. I think that would be taken for granted. It's whether or not you've engaged your brain sufficiently to create that virtual experience because your idea was better. That's going to be, I think, and that's not new. That's been the case, as I mentioned a moment ago, for radio, TV, and more. So using day one to be, where you put the ideas down and let them mature, and then using Restream to execute. I love, by the way, the reminder feature of day one. I wish probably some of what I'm using would have that. I mean, do you still use sometimes pen and paper? I mean, I still have pads and not pads everywhere around the house.
Absolutely right. My problem is I tend to lose the pieces of paper afterwards. but there you go. But no, it's almost like an incubator. And as you say, if you can come up with better ideas and preferably different ideas, and then put them onto that platform, then you're really going to stand out.
So, Roger, welcome to this week's Marketing, Tech and Apps segment. Every week, Roger and I choose 2 apps and online solutions that make life easier as marketers and content creators. I'm just curious, once again, Roger, what have been your picks of the week?
Okay, this is interesting. I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, Pascal. I quite like the platform, and there's some great photographs out there, and I love to see what people are taking pictures of their travel experiences, products, behind the scenes, just everything. It is a nice platform, but I do sometimes find it quite frustrating. I like stories, and I'm quite interested in Instagram TV as well. And I came across this website. It's called Desktopify. That's a great word, isn't it? Desktopify. And it's actually a complete sort of recreation of the Instagram app, but it's on the desktop. Right. So you've got a lot more space, and it also allows you to upload videos to your stories. It also allows you to upload videos to IGTV, and because you've got more space to play around with, if you're playing the hashtag game, you could have hashtags saved in a Word document, and you just copy them into your post. So I've suddenly found that this Desktopify has sort of rekindled my interest in Instagram. So it's a great thing to look for. It's one of those, what do you call it? It's like a widget in Chrome, a Chrome add-on, I think they call it. And actually, I also thought I would mention, one of the things that has always annoyed me about Instagram is that you can't hit return at the end of a sentence and then hit return again and have a space between your paragraphs. They all sort of clump it all together. And you've always had to find some nifty little apps somewhere else on the internet to add those spaces in and without having to put lots of rogue full stops in. Well, actually, Instagram have fixed that now. You can actually put spaces in between lines, which to me is just much more pleasing on the eye. So thanks for doing that, Instagram. The second app, and this isn't technically a marketing tool actually, but obviously our lives have changed with COVID. We've been locked in for a long time, and now of course we're starting to go out. But one of the things I've been doing a lot more of whilst the lockdown has been in force has been walking. And I came across this app. Again, it's for Android and iOS devices. It's called Strava walking, running and cycling. And basically it's just a nice little app that you take with you. It's in your pocket. It measures the number of steps you take. It's got this great GPS feature so that at the end of your walk or your cycle or your run, you press a button and it downloads a map of the local area, presumably from Google Maps or something like that. And then it plots a nice little red line showing you exactly where you've walked. I just love that. It's nice to actually be able to see where you've gone and the distance involved. And it works out calories and elevation and all of those sorts of things. So it satisfies the inner geek in me because, we're two geeks and we've got a marketing podcast, but anything that I can apply to other parts of my life, and fitness instruction has always been a part of my life. I love an app like this because it just brings out my inner geek.
Oh, that's smashing. Thanks very much for that. I would definitely look at those. So, Roger, this week I want to go back to curation. I'm a big fan of curation.
Yeah.
As a content marketing tactic for a number of reasons. One, to build, obviously, your understanding what's happening around you, but also to show to the world that you're well connected, well researched, and build your reputation in a nice, sociable way, as opposed to just pushing your stuff. But the challenge, of course, is to find content that is going to connect with you and your audience. At times, sometimes can be against you. So I've got two that may make life a little easier. They're both web-based. I don't think they've got an app version or web version, but I could check that. The first one is called contentgems.com. Gems as in the precious stones. Contentgems.com. Think of it as your virtual assistant that can go around the web, look for the gems, those kind of content that are going to really kind of hit the mark. So the way you do it is you set up an account, still free to this day. You create profile using keywords, and then literally once you press go find, it will match your keywords to popular content on social media. Now, of course, popularity doesn't mean quality, but at least it's going to take a lot of the legwork and a lot of the line share of having to be the journalist and researcher out there. And the good thing about it, you get a preview of the image, you get a preview of the text just before, particularly if it's an article. You can also filter by just saying, I just want videos, I just want infographics. So you can also filter by type, you can filter by recency. And then within Content Gems as well, you can save and time it, schedule it on Buffer, Hootsuite, and many other platforms. So this virtual assistant has been a boon for me, really. Now, I hasten to add, you're going to find that a lot of it is quite US-centric in terms of content, but that could be just sheer volume. But perhaps, I don't have the data, Roger, whether we have less content creators in the UK, I can't be sure. But you can fine-tune your profiles and keywords. One thing you must not do, Roger, with this platform is agree to the daily digest.
Yes.
Don't do that, Roger. Honestly, I did it at the beginning. I felt like the apprentice sorcerer, from Fantasia, Mickey Mouse, with the buckets of water coming in. So I would say go on Content Gem yourself when in your diary you've kind of created that time where this is my time to curate and then share on social, or to do a roundup of the best, whichever your term is, but don't use, however tempting it might be, the dailies and weeklies, because your inbox will be just full of content. And in fact, it becomes very intrusive. I think it's more, down to you. The second curation tool is something called podchaser.com. As the name might indicate, this is about podcast and podcasting. And podchaser.com allows you to actually do two things. One is to follow, obviously, your favorite shows and favorite podcast creators. But what is lovely, they can be organized into playlists. So I normally would listen via Stitcher, maybe SoundCloud, maybe Spotify, but usually those platforms allow you to organize yourself and organize your listing beyond maybe categories. This one, you can go down to episodes that can be grouped together from different podcasters. You
Yeah.
can obviously group podcasters into themes like marketing, sports, food, that kind of things. And of course, you can share your listings with your audience. So, as you know, I favor video podcasting, but I'm a great consumer of podcasts as audio, and I love to share it on. But again, it's a bit like YouTube. On YouTube, you can organize your findings into playlist. I couldn't find a tool until more recently that could do that. But Podchaser is just a wonderful addition, again, to the tools that you have that can allow you to be a good curator, but also to allow people to find, again, your bests of list and that kind of thing. So you go contentjames.com and podchaser.com.
Fantastic. In this section of the show, Pascal and I choose a couple of items of marketing tech. So it could be an app, it could be a platform, something again that's caught our attention for being probably wonderfully simple, but most importantly, remarkably useful. So Pascal, hit me with your two.
So this week, Roger, I'm going to go for audio recording and audio production. And I've got two very different solutions for you. So you know my view on imagination being one of the number one ingredient when it comes to a successful marketing campaign, indeed content marketing campaign, that spark that's going to help you be different and stand out from the white noise. So, you know, you and I come up with ideas all the time, perhaps too often, but, you know, there we are. and sometimes you want to make sure you capture it. And there's many ways in which you can do it. And I've got a solution for you, Roger, which is called a Net Memo Plus voice recorder. Bit of a long title, but Net Memo Plus is usually the short version voice recorder. It allows you to record a 1-minute message, voice message, audio message that is automatically emailed to yourself. So you could be out and about in your favorite locations, you know, after drinking one of your coffees, Roger, and then you come up with the next idea for Rod's vlog or next idea for an article or for a podcast guest question, that kind of things. And you look around, you don't have a pen, you want to write it down, but actually you want to just say it as it comes to mind. You tap on the app, everything's set up already during the kind of sign up stage of which email address is going to go to, and so on and so forth. You press record, you talk away. You only have 60 seconds, which I think is also helpful to get to the point. And then when you stop recording, it automatically sends you the MP3 file, which you can then listen to it back in the office or save as part of your box of good ideas. So Net Memo Plus voice recorder is free. It works across the Android and iPhone systems. I've got it and I've used it many times. Sometimes it's just what you need, as well as the other things that you've got. Now, on the other side of the scale, sometimes you will need to record long form. Indeed, maybe this idea of yours or this audio recording interview began with a short message to yourself using Net Memo Plus. But the next thing you'll need then is something that can record long form. And I've got an app, again, free, working across both operating systems called Voice Record Pro. Voice Record Pro. And essentially, it's a kind of a mini version of what you would have as a physical kit. So you can put settings, you can choose the qualities of your audio recordings from MP3 to WAV and all the others. You can actually see a virtual representation of the needle going up and down as the voice is being recorded. You can save it on your mobile phone. You can also upload directly on Google Drive and OneDrive and all the others. It also does something a little odd, which is you can create a YouTube video with essentially a static image and then the audio recording kind of playing. It's not the most elegant solution, but maybe you want to clear some memory on your phone, and you can do that directly, putting it onto YouTube. As you know, you and I have done some tests before where you can have you as the host and then a guest using some of the mobile phone extensions. You can have two lapel mics plug into the mobile recorder, and using Voice Record Pro, you have some really high quality sound. And you can do some very gentle editing. You can trim, you can kind of increase some of the qualities and so on. And again, just share that online. And it gives you essentially that kind of mobile recording studio that if one day, how many times you and I, you said, you know, when we started this session, we sat down, we had a chat, and then we'd stop and we go, do you know what?
we should have recorded this. So, when you're in a position, Roger, to be out and about and meet your friends again and business associates, I think Voice Record Pro could be a solution to help you capture that audio for some kind of, fly on the wall, kind of in the moment audio recordings.
Sounds really good. I'm going to move on from audio into the realm of video, if I may. I'm going to talk about Adobe Premiere Rush today, and I'm going to preface this by saying, as you know, I've done quite a lot of vlogging over the last 3 years, and I put together Rog Vlog. That's me out and about, traveling to conferences, going on trains, exploring cities, and sometimes behind the scenes of my business. I also do a series of videos called Marketing Made Simple, which is me just giving people a 2 or 3 minute marketing tip. And, I can trace back my current enthusiasm for video to yourself. You did a speech at a Upreneur event about 4 years ago, and you really did give me that insight into how you can make videos more interesting by editing them. So either doing jump cuts or doing establishing shots, angles, getting out and about, going down to the harbour to do the video rather than sitting here with the bookcase behind me. And eventually I got more into the editing process of video. And I have been using Adobe Premiere Pro, which is probably the most sophisticated and powerful editing software you can get. But Pascal, it is so buggy. And it's not just me and my computer not being strong enough. I've done the Google search. I know that a lot of Adobe customers throughout the world lament the performance of this program. It crashes frequently. Sometimes the files become corrupt. It really, there are some days where I'm literally screaming obscenities at the screen because this thing is crashing on me. But it's so powerful. But recently, because I now have access to the full Adobe suite with Photoshop and After Effects and Adobe Audition, I now have access to this thing called Adobe Premiere Rush, which is like as its name suggests, is a cut down version of Adobe Premiere Pro. And actually, it's probably good enough, at least for those Marketing Made Simple videos, which are quite linear. I don't have to add B-roll to those or mix and match shots. So I've just discovered recently that I can do the first edit using Adobe Premiere Rush really quickly, and I'm not getting constant crashing and constant corruption. And the great thing about Adobe Premiere Rush is it saves it in the cloud. Well, you can do that with Premiere Pro as well, but you can actually access the file on any mobile device and any desktop device. So, for example, the other day, I was out in the garden, beautiful day, and the birds were eating from the bird feeder. So I stuck my GoPro up next to the bird feeder and recorded about half an hour's worth of footage in a very high frame rate, so I could slow it down to slow motion. And I was sat outside with my glass of iced water, fizzy water, and I was able to do a quick edit using Adobe Premiere Rush on my iPhone. And then after the sun had gone in and I went upstairs, on the desktop there was the edit, all ready to go on the desktop. Finished it off, exported it, uploaded it to Twitter and to Facebook, and so much easier than all that crashing. So if you've got simple linear videos that you're producing and you just want to be able to edit them quickly, then I would definitely recommend Adobe Premiere Rush. You're going to want to put up with Premiere Pro for the bigger projects, and for that reason I will implore Adobe to please try to fix the stability of this program, because it is world beating, but the stability absolutely and utterly sucks. Now, the second thing that I was going to talk about today is actually very topical and is also sort of video related as well, Pascal, and that is Instagram Reels.
Yes.
Instagram Reels. Now, I remember, again, I recorded a video 3 years ago saying, look what Instagram have done. They've ripped off Snapchat and they've called it Stories, and they've launched this onto the Instagram platform. And of course, the world's got used to that now, and Instagram Stories, a staple part of the Instagram experience. But now, of course, they have launched this thing called Instagram Reels, which is a blatant, utter, unashamed rip-off of TikTok. Now, I know there's a great big amount of controversy, especially in the States, as to whether TikTok is some, clandestine spying program being used by the Chinese to suck the data out of the American public. Whether that's true or not, and I'm not going to get into that debate, there is obviously a lot of controversy about TikTok, and it might disappear if President Trump signs his executive order. So obviously Instagram have piled in with this Reels. And honestly, Pascal, I don't know whether you've seen the interface, but it is an absolute clone of TikTok. Even down to the icons, it just looks the same, and it's the same idea. You create a video that's 15 seconds long. You can add music onto it. You can lip sync. You can add stickers and all of that sort of thing. And I'm just thinking, oh, for goodness sake, when are Instagram going to have an original idea? But actually, that's not the point. That's not the point. I just wonder, and maybe you can come back on this, are we getting to the stage where all these social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, albeit they're owned by Facebook, are all trying to do everything? We're hearing about LinkedIn stories coming along. Are all these platforms becoming the same, offering all the same functionality, or should they actually stick to what they originally intended to do? And with Instagram, that was a platform for sharing fabulous photos. Really, it's only Twitter that has decided to stick with, effectively, with a few variations, what it originally set out to do. Now, I actually quite like the concept of Reels, but it was TikTok that invented that, or Musically as it was originally. So I just don't know. Where do we draw the line at this blatant copying?
Do you know, I listen to you and think that it's almost breaking every single rule of marketing and product differentiation. I mean, if you think about it, you're absolutely right. You have a product, it has a brand, it has an expression of the brand through the logos and through the color schemes and so on, through the business values, and you offer something that is unique to you. But if eventually you copy all the features and give them a fancy name every single time, then how do you, as a customer, choose which one to go for? And more importantly, how do you, as a marketer, choose which one to go for? And for me, it's back to this idea of, TikTok is doing his thing, and is attracting its audience. It's built its audience through essentially the form of expression through visual and audio content, which was very unique to the platform. And I don't think it was being missed from the Instagram experience. I mean, nobody kind of sat down and think, you know what, would be much better on Instagram if they could do something like TikTok. So I think this is a spoiler. And I'm going to take you back to my younger days, as I mentioned a moment ago, of the print industry. I knew many magazine publishers, magazine editors, who on purpose would be releasing something that was a copy of the competitor to spoil the market so that this new magazine or this kind of perhaps smaller production company would eventually die. So I think that what Facebook are guilty of is spoiling, which is that they thought TikTok is doing rather well. We're not keen because we like to be the number one platform in the world. So let's do something like Instagram Reels that we're probably going to kill within a year. Facebook this year has released something like 5 platforms, 5 different solutions. And of those 5, only 2 are left. And we're only in August this year. So I'm a big fan of social media marketing as a strategy, as an approach to build brands and so on and so forth. But I have to tell you, I think that if my kind of assessment is correct, which is about Facebook using its wealth and its might to spoil someone else's entry into the market, I'm not impressed.
No, and I think that the whole point of TikTok is that it was a safe place for that target audience. They were free to express themselves, probably away from their parents, away from older people, and mainly away from marketers, because I know that advertising works in a different way on TikTok. So they're not going to suddenly flood across and start using Reels instead. They're going to stay subject to Donald Trump, of course, they're going to stay on TikTok. Although I did read that Facebook have offered certain TikTok influencers substantial amounts of money to effectively jump ship and come and try out Reels. But you're absolutely right, Pascal. It'll be interesting to see in a couple of years' time and look back at what people made of Instagram Reels in the same way as we're now looking back at what Instagram have done with stories.
I'm happy to make a prediction that within a year it will not exist anymore. For me, it was just a tactic to spoil the market. And just before we move on to our next segment, can I just say it's a delight to see you smiling when talking about editing using Adobe Premiere Rush. Out of interest, for me, that's always the acid test when like you, I've gone the other way, which is, I used to use Pro solutions, and to have my customers, I've gone on the kind of quest for knowledge and truth about simpler ways of editing video. And so I'm glad you mentioned that one. But with Adobe Premiere Rush, for me, the one thing that is non-negotiable is to be able to do overlays. Can you do that with Adobe Premiere Rush or not?
Yes, you can.
Here we go.
I mean,
I'm sold.
Effectively, the timelines can be the same. You can stack them on top of each other. It's just that the focus is much more on simplicity. So you have to go looking for that in the menus. But it is there. It is there.